For almost all of human existence, there were no cities. For thousands of generations, surviving meant keeping moving. But one woman began to notice something that no one else noticed. Then nature changed the rules. What if, for the first time, humanity simply stopped? Before empires, humans survived like any other creature. For almost all of human existence, no one had permanent housing. Our ancestors walked. They always walked. Men like Tarek knew only one rule: move forward to stay alive. The horizon was the map. The rivers were the roads. Nara observed the world differently than other travelers. Each generation learned the same lessons: find water, find food, keep moving. But what would happen if one day the movement stopped working? Every day started the same way: the search for the next meal. For thousands of years, nature provided everything humans needed. Rivers were more than water. They were paths, food, and survival. Tharek could read the landscape like other men read words. Without writing, the entire story lived in memory. For those people, the landscape preserved all of their collective memory. Nara spent hours observing patterns that others ignored. Heaven determined everything: when to leave, when to wait, when to survive. Hunting required patience. One mistake could mean starvation. Around the fire, alliances, stories, and knowledge emerged. It seemed like an unchanging world, a world that would exist forever. Then something started to change, and almost no one noticed. Tariq had known those paths since his youth, and the signs were changing. At each station, you had to walk a little further. For millennia, moving solved problems. Now that was starting to change. Some rivers no longer looked the same. Nara noticed changes that others considered insignificant. Not every hunt ended in success, but now failures were becoming more frequent. Nature rarely announces its changes. It simply changes. For the first time in many years, even Tariq began to doubt his instincts. Humanity was silently approaching a decisive historical crossroads. The old world persisted, but its foundations were quickly beginning to crumble. Natural cycles guided humans, but now they seemed different. The large herds still existed, but they were increasingly difficult to reach. To find food, it was necessary to walk further than ever before. While the others looked for game, Nara watched the land. The shortage arrived slowly, but it arrived. Many revolutions begin silently through almost invisible changes. Tharic's experience no longer guaranteed results. Some rivers were beginning to disappear, slowly, silently. For the first time, Tarek wasn't sure which way to go. And while the old world struggled to survive, a new idea began to be born. As their ancestors had done for generations, the group returned to a familiar place. It was then that Nara noticed something strange. Plants seemed to grow stronger right where humans had been. Today we know that that was no coincidence. But for Nara, that was just a question. Tariq didn't pay attention. His concern continued to be the next hunt. The water spread seeds. The soil protected them, and nature did the rest. Meanwhile, the shortage continued to advance. What if food could grow where people were? Without knowing it, Nara had just started one of the greatest revolutions in human history. In the following days, Nara returned to the same place. Meanwhile, hunters found less and less food. The paths that had sustained entire generations no longer offered the same answers. Big transformations rarely seem grand when they begin. Then she saw something unexpected. The earth had responded. For the others, nothing had changed. But Tariq was beginning to feel something he had never felt before: fear. Without realizing it, Nara and Tariq were already looking in different directions. Tradition and innovation silently competed for the future of humanity. Every year, when the season changed, families left. But this time, Nara didn't want to leave. For Tariq, the decision was simple. It always had been. For millennia, moving was the most effective human strategy. The little sprouts continued to grow. And some people started asking questions. The problem was that the horizon no longer offered the same promises. For the first time, some families decided to stay. To Tariq, that seemed like a dangerous mistake. Without realizing it, those families tried to live permanently in the same place. The days passed, and the plants continued to grow. For the first time, food seemed to come without pursuit. No migration, no hunting. Without battles or kings, a silent revolution was beginning. Then came the first harvest. It wasn't much, but it was enough to attract attention. Tariq saw the result, but he remained suspicious. Everything your ancestors had learned said the same thing: never depend on one place. Even so, more families decided to stay. For the first time, two paths opened before humanity. The choice remained open, but the return had already begun. When the season returned, the plants returned with it. It wasn't luck, It was no coincidence. It was a pattern. For the first time, survival became partially plannable. Shelters are no longer just temporary. Tarek saw the change happening before his own eyes. Some families had more food than they consumed daily. What started as observation began to spread. And meanwhile, the old path offered fewer and fewer answers. An era was ending. Another had just been born. Without realizing it, those families were slowly building the foundations of civilization. For the first time, some families stayed for more than one season. The river is no longer just a stopover. It became a point of return. For the first time, the territory began to matter more than the journey. Observation turned into practice. Staying required something new: constant cooperation. Tarek remained suspicious, but I could no longer ignore the results. For the first time, food could cross seasons. Fewer and fewer people left. A new generation began to know only one home. Without realizing it, a community had been born. Food supplies have become safer. Survival no longer depended solely on hunting. Humanity began to produce its own future. Knowledge began to be transmitted. The cycles became understandable. Observation became tradition. The surplus created security. For the first time, Tarek saw stability. Staying no longer seemed impossible. The world was changing. Some paths were no longer taken. The old world was beginning to disappear. No civilization is born without another form of life being left behind. Staying has become routine. Nera's idea prospered, and Tarek understood that the future had already arrived.
Put the fish on the drying rack.
For the first time, people were planning years ahead.
Yes, and put the rest.
A new humanity was emerging. The movement no longer defined survival. Nomadism was no longer the only path. The seed of civilization had been planted. Cooperation grew. It all started with a simple decision. Remaining in that place would forever change human destiny. A decision that changed human history. Villages would be born from it. Then cities would emerge, connecting people, resources, and knowledge. Then civilizations. But it all started here. When we stop walking, we begin to build the current world.